You. Oh, you
millennials and your like bad white girl feminism.
I am woman. Hear me roar while I vote for Hillary Clinton.
Hashtag girl boss.
She's my Daenerys Targaryen, and I'll die for her. Still with her. My political alignment changes
every episode. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Steve. I'm the bassist from Lipstick Generation.
Hi, I'm Greg. I'm the lead singer from Lipstick Generation. I don't know, Victor's in the band now, so maybe not.
Oh, yeah, it's true. Victor. Hey, Victor, introduce yourself, I guess, as a member of the band.
Hi, I'm Victor. I'm the lead singer of Lipstick Generation.
Yeah, that's probably right.
That's fair enough. Julia, what role do you have in the band Lipstick Generation?
I'm the manager.
Ooh.
And you're all fired.
Oh, nice. Well, I'll see you guys later. I'm going, somewhere else.
Hi, I'm Julia. I'm the new lead singer of Lipstick Generation.
Ooh, quick hire.
And
I'm
Gavin's
also the
only person who is
bassist
in the
drummer.
band.
Oh, wait, Gavin, would you like to be the drummer of Lipstick Generation? Everyone else got fired.
Oh, that sounds good.
Welcome to the band.
My schedule just opened up for the next 2 months. I was going to be on tour in April and May, but that's not happening.
I was going to go to the end and demand to mouthily simulate your hedgehog.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I'm at the wrong venue because it was at the High Watt.
Oh, was it? Oh, all right.
Yeah. And welcome to the Lipstick panel. Today on the Lipstick panel, we are talking about the Smashing Pumpkins album Zeitgeist. The comeback album of the Pumpkins. This was how many years in between this and Machina 2? 7, 8 years?
Something like that. I don't know. Let's check Wikipedia. It knows.
So, I can hear Craig's head exploding right now.
Yeah, so...
How did they not know this?
7-ish years.
Yeah, 7-ish years. So almost as long as the gap between Psycho Circus and Sonic Boom. Hey, Craig, we mentioned Kiss. How you doing, buddy?
I mean, the important part is it's a solid 2 Silver Sun Pickups albums after Machina 2.
And also a
point?
Swan album afterwards, too.
Yeah, but Silver Sun Pickups are the ones that matter.
Do they have anything to do with the Pumpkins other than you thinking they kind of sound like them?
They don't, but they sound like what the Pumpkins should have done instead of, getting back together and being boring.
All right, so today we're talking about Zeitgeist, a controversial album in the Pumpkins community. A lot of people say it's one of the worst things the Pumpkins have ever done.
And Greg says it isn't.
And Greg and a lot of people in the YouTube comments say it's an underrated album. So typically we go around the panel and talk about our histories with the band and the album. I'll go first. My familiarity with the Smashing Pumpkins was generally not liking them when I was younger because these songs are so angsty and boring. I don't care. And then saw the video for Tonight, thought it was pretty cool. And then when I became friends with Steve, he loaned me Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, and it was pretty cool. And then through the course of this podcast, I have listened to every Smashing Pumpkins album, including ones we were doing in the future. And when I got to Zeitgeist, just in my own independent listening, Steve was like, "Oh, that one's terrible. Be prepared for it to suck." And I listened to it and I'm like, "Oh, this sounds like the Smashing Pumpkins. This sounds like the band, but the band, I tend to not like the rocking side of the Pumpkins more. I tend to prefer the ballads. But I think this album as a whole is the best rocking Pumpkins they've ever sounded. In terms of a good hard rock album by the Pumpkins, if you just want to rock and kick ass, this might be my number one. Not in terms of strong singles necessarily, but in terms of a consistent listen. This one rocks throughout, has good riffs, good vocal production. It's not one of my favorite Pumpkins albums. It's probably somewhere in the middle, but it's a solid thumbs up. So I don't love it necessarily, but I don't hate it. So A minus maybe.
Fair enough. I guess I'll go next since Greg's version of the story touches directly on mine. So, I was a big fan of the Smashing Pumpkins all throughout high school and whatnot. And then when they got back together and released an album, I was like, oh, shoot, they're mostly back. I mean, it's 2 of them, but I like that Swan album, so this will be maybe more of that. But they're going to go darker again, like the Smashing Pumpkins, instead of being all bright and cheery like Zwan was. So I was pretty excited for it, and then I picked up a copy and I was like, yeah, this is pretty good. And then I listened to it a bunch more times, and after a while, it was just like, I mostly don't care for this album. And then Greg overemphasized how much my antipathy towards it. It's just like I'm not that into it. But he did question my antipathy and was like, well, what don't you like about this album? So I re-listened to the album a lot more critically and thinking about it. And now I do know what I don't like about this album. And I sort of get why it speaks to Greg as the, the basic person that he is. But I still think he's wrong in many of his opinions about it. The things that he really likes about this album are largely the things that make it a not very strong album.
Well,
All right. Well, Victor, what about you? What are your thoughts on this album and general history with the Pumpkins?
So with the Pumpkins, much like many of the other bands I've been doing recently on this show, I have loved them since they were first coming on the scene, and I started an FAQ website about all of them, and the Smashing Pumpkins included, because I just know a lot about them. I've listened to all of their albums, aka I listened to Gish one time and Zwan and this. And they have always existed as a band that is sort of on the periphery of types of music that I like, but I just never have taken the dive. And this album specifically, I think there's a good album in here. Unfortunately, it's like 4 albums long.
Damn. So, Julia, you said before we started recording that you actually liked this album. So what's your history with the Pumpkins and general thoughts on this album?
I was first introduced to the Pumpkins in Guitar Hero 3. What was the song in that game? I think it was Cherub Rock.
Cherub
and I remember
Rock,
I thought, because I was a child, this song is really, really long and very repetitive. But then once I found their other songs, I was like, oh, okay, this is fine. And that's about the extent of my relationship with Smashing Pumpkins. I think they're fine. I know at least a decent number of their songs, so I have an okay grasp of what their music sounds like, but I've never actually listened to an entire album. So this was my first Smashing Pumpkins album. I know, sorry. I'm sorry. I have not listened to Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness.
Oh, no, that's not me being disappointed in you. That's me feeling sorry that this was your first.
You know what, though? I only listened to this album because I lost my job. And I had nothing better to do besides spend 2 hours listening to it. Otherwise, I would never have made the time. And it wasn't terrible. So there are some songs in here that I would listen to on purpose, I think.
Yeah,
All
I put
right.
it on last night, and when the Doomsday Clock starts, she was kind of like, "This doesn't totally suck."
High praise. So, Gavin, do you think this album totally sucks?
Totally? No. Do large swaths of it suck? Yes. I got into the Pumpkins when I was in the 7th grade. Huge. Siamese Dream is probably my favorite. Love Melancholy, love Gish, enjoy, adore. But by the time that this album came out in 2007, I had just graduated high school, and I was kind of done with the Pumpkins at that point. I was listening to lots of other things. And so I generally... I didn't hear this when it came out. I heard, Tarantula, and then I thought, no. I'm good. No, it's okay, Billy. No, thanks. Maybe next time. And then I listened to it finally for this. It's half of it sounds like Machina 2, and half of it is Zwan 2.
Yep, sounds about
Fair
right.
enough. What I would say about the album. I do remember.
Wait, so that'd be Machina 2 Part 2 or like Machina 3?
Machina 3.
Yes.
Okay.
The one where they fight Hulk Hogan and Mr. T.
Oh, perfect.
So the
That's
best
my
one.
favorite. That or Machina Balboa.
Right. So esoteric. For things that are much more popular than this album.
Yeah, I feel like
Anyway,
referencing Rocky isn't that esoteric.
that's fair. I mean, look, they're
I've never
cultural
seen it.
milestones. I mean, you're missing out. Steve is about to say that Balboa and 3 are hot garbage, but only in terms of the meta narrative. They're fine individual films to enjoy, even if they don't push the plot forward significantly. Anyway,
So what you're telling me is that this album did not reach the zeitgeist of culture.
it did not.
No.
Although, I did see commercials for it on VH1 Classic and thought that it sounded kind of cool. And I think one of my buddies had the album, so I might have heard a little bit of it when I was hanging out with one of my friends in high school. And it was okay. Like, I didn't aggressively hate the Pumpkins at that point because I heard I saw the Tonight video. And so if someone played some Pumpkins that wasn't Bullet with Butterfly Wings, I didn't immediately just, write it off. So, like, for me, my general, takeaway from this album is like the way that Steve listened to Sonic Boom. I was like, this sounds like a Kiss album. Why does everyone hate this? To me, it's like, oh, this sounds like a Smashing Pumpkins album, except, better production in a lot of ways and not as good production in some other ways. But yeah, I mean, it's like, this just sounds like the Pumpkins doing pumpkin-y things. But I guess we'll debate that as we get into the ranking. So, for the purposes of this ranking, we are including the different bonus tracks from different editions of the CD, which is
And the
something that was
different
very
bonus tracks from Gavin's ranking?
well, there's
nice.
there's some extra Gavin isms in the ranking, but this is back in the era where they'd have all the different editions of CDs released at different stores, and so if you wanted all the different tracks, here's one that's only on iTunes, one that's only at Best Buy, one that's only at Target, which was I guess one of the good things about physical media dying is that that's no longer a thing in a lot of ways. But we included the bonus tracks that we felt were appropriate. So it had to be on an edition of the CD and not a single that was never on the album or from an EP unrelated. So, hopefully people listening to this ranking aren't furious with us. Hi, Craig. But coming in as the least best thing on this album, according to Gavin, is the Sleepy Throats of the Billy Corgan Choir.
Yeah.
Does sound like the name of a Smashing Pumpkins album, actually.
Yeah. For some reason, Billy, while making this, decided to clone himself 4 times and make kind of a barbershop quartet that he, for some reason, invited to be on this album a lot. And they were there in the studio with their weird little multicolored vests and tiny straw hats. And it was generally upsetting and everyone hated it.
The trick is all of those Billy Corgan clones, they had fake names that they were using in the studio. And then they all got credited as producers. So one of them was named Terry Dale. One of them was named Roy Thomas Baker. And one of them was named Jimmy Chamberlain.
Yeah.
Sorry. Continue. The Queen fan in me was like cringing at the Roy Thomas Baker thing. Just like the amount of respect I have for him as a producer. Just like I know the joke you were making, but it still stabbed my heart. And actually, since I'm still talking, I'll just go ahead and say I like the Choir of Billies. I like that Billy discovered that you could multi-track things other than guitars. I'm glad.
What the hell? This isn't Pumpkins.
Well, he had to learn that because how else could he play bass on all those albums?
Oh, I mean, they're bass guitars. They have guitar in the name. He didn't realize you could multi-track that didn't have guitar in the name. Like the whole choir thing. There's a lot of glam acts from this era would multi-track in this way, and at this point in listening to the Pumpkins, I have grown accustomed to Billy's voice where I actually enjoy the sound of his voice. And so having it higher up in the mix and then just adding harmonies and bigger hooks on the choruses isn't a bad thing for me. So Choir of Billies, I'm all in.
Well, but I love Billy's voice, right? Much in the same way that I love, say,
I love Billy's voice, but I want it to be tuned so low in the mix that I can't hear it.
well, no, I just want one of them because when you multiply that, like you have
Flock of vultures.
yeah.
Which is kind of awesome because it's like it gives it's menacing, and that's cool. Billy Corgan
Menacing?
is the vulture. Yeah.
I feel like describing the flock of billies as menacing. I don't buy it.
No,
Like-
it's just it's frightening, and not and it's not supposed to be.
I think it like on a on certain tracks I guess we'll get to it, but I think like those gang choruses like enhance the creepiness of this album, and I think the way they're supposed to, and in the way that the beginning is the end is the beginning, and like those songs just like have this just like a really creepy vibe. I think that's accentuated here, and so the way that Zwan was the bright happy sunshine, this was the other side of the coin, the darkness, and I think the vocal choices on this album are excellent for the material in most spots. But hey, speaking of the material, we actually have a song next on the ranking before we get to other things that were ranked. We have Forgotten Country ranked as the least best song on the album.
Which, Julia liked it the most, putting it fourth from the bottom.
Well, she's a fascist, so that makes sense.
To give me some credit, I only had time to listen to this album once, so I don't remember this song. I don't remember this song
Country.
at all. No, Vic tried to sing me one of the songs from this album earlier, and I was like, that doesn't ring a single bell.
Or a choir of multi-tracked bells.
Yeah.
It doesn't ring all the bells in the world.
I can hear so many Billies in my brain.
It doesn't ring Ma Bell.
Ah.
Ah.
I understood that reference.
I would cut this song from the album. I do remember that.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is probably the one that suffers the most from bad production on this album. Like, there's only one drum beat the entire song for no good reason. The guitars are really thin. The bass is really loud, despite the fact that it's not actually doing anything. And the vocals are really far forward. They just made every bad decision they could in putting this song together.
Well, I would say this song is more an arrangement issue than a production issue. I think the general guitar tone on this album is a little thin and needs more low end, but otherwise I'm happy with the production across the board.
Mixing the bass too loud is a production decision.
Well, yes, sorry.
Mixing the vocals too far forward is a production decision.
I think that's a good production decision. I think the vocals are appropriately mixed finally on a Pumpkins album.
No.
Incorrect,
Oh,
Greg.
I could not disagree more.
But you both liked this album, which is crazy.
Yes.
But I would say this song is it's a little repetitive in its melody. The drum beat is repetitive, but that's not really a production thing. That's just Jimmy playing a boring part. But I think this song is essential in terms of the general concept of the album. Where Billy's goal with this album, I've been reading the Genius page and some interviews where he said he wanted to do a couple different things with the album. One was do an album that was clearly the Smashing Pumpkins, but not repeating anything they had done in the past, like being Smashing Pumpkins for 2007, and certain songs in the album sounded too much like songs from Melancholy, and so he intentionally changed them in ways that probably annoyed everyone else on the panel. But also one of his other goals was to comment on, America, slowly becoming a fascist society. And so lyrically, this song is essential on the album in terms of the overall, piece he was trying to create. It's just musically, it's not as strong, but I think it's still musically, lyrically essential, even though I ranked it last place just because of melody.
It's also track 1 million on a 1,000,001 track album.
Yeah.
I mean, but you guys liked Melancholy, those of you who were on that episode, and that's a really ridiculously long album.
But the brilliance of parts of it offsets the sitting through the flab.
So the trick with Melancholy is what they did with Melancholy is Billy Corgan wrote 120 songs, put 30 of them on the album, put 30 of them on B-sides, and threw 60 in the trash. I don't get the impression that he did that with this particular album.
Based upon all the singles coming out at the same time, I think he probably still did.
He put all the singles out at the same time for this?
Not all, but there was a bunch of singles that came out. Like there was an EP that came out at this era, like 6 singles, a bunch of other songs that didn't make the album. So I think Billy just does that every time he creates an album. It's just the songs he picked this time you didn't like.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see when he gets around to doing this special edition of this one. Sometime, 8 years from now after he finishes the special edition of Machina. Because, he will put all of those 60 tracks that, if they exist, he threw out. But, I don't know, like, a lot of the stuff that came out with the singles wasn't new tracks. A lot of it was live versions of old tracks and, things like, a live version of Daydream.
Right, but I'm saying, I'm looking at, you had Gossamer, Signal to Noise, Supertrack, FOL, you had Glow. So you had a few other like songs that were debuting around this same time. Yeah. And, the different tracks that were left off the album. So, I mean, maybe not to the extent as Melancholy, which, I get that's what you're saying. I don't know. I feel like this is a very well put together concept of anti-fascism. And as someone who is anti-fascist, I appreciate that, unlike the rest of you damn savages.
And Billy Corgan.
And Billy Corgan, who later became a fascist after this album. But at the time, he was like, fascism is bad. And then, like, on second thought, power's pretty cool, though.
On second thought, maybe fascism is good, and my name is William. Young idealistic Billy, who was anti-fascist, is dead.
But yeah, I would say this is probably the weak link of the album musically. Does anyone have any other comments on this track before we move on?
It's so much of the second half of this album, I think, is, at least I personally don't have a lot to say about it other than, it's just kind of boring.
Well, hey, next up on the list, we have something that Gavin liked a lot on this album. We've got Jimmy's Snare Tone next on the list.
Oh, yeah.
You single-handedly put this third from the bottom because nobody else voted on this.
I mean, that snare drum sounds so good on this album. It's it was something I enjoyed immediately, and I enjoyed that more than most of this album.
I mean, look, I think the drums sound great. I think the guitar tone, like I said, if it just had more low end, that's the only thing mixing, where it's not a good headphone album. It's a great car album or a great album when you're listening to it like on your speakers at home, but this is not a good album for headphones. It's something I noticed. It sounds noticeably worse in headphones than most albums we listen to for the show. But if you just listen to it with regular speakers, not in headphones, it sounds great. It's just something about the thinness of the guitars did not translate to headphones very well.
So, of course, Billy Corgan in 2007, when he was releasing the iTunes exclusive version of the album with specific iTunes exclusive tracks, was like, you know what this needs to sound particularly terrible on? Earbuds.
I mean, look, that is a poor choice, but I don't know if that the idea of the iTunes exclusive track was his idea. I feel like what he did was he had a batch of songs, the album was done, and there's like, what if we had all these different versions of the album? And he probably was thinking of commercial stores and then forgot iTunes was a thing, and then listened to it with earbuds like, oh shoot, well, it's already done. Here it is, kids.
Oh, I'm betting it was a label stipulation.
Yeah.
I have trouble picturing him forgetting that iTunes existed because they had previously released iTunes exclusive stuff. Like there was an iTunes B-sides collection like that came out shortly after the band broke up.
Oh, well, it's possible that they didn't do the headphone test because maybe they just weren't thinking of it. They were thinking of, let's take it in the car test that you do when you're in a band. Sounds good. And when you're mixing, he wasn't using headphones. He was just listening, back over the playback.
It's possible. You'd think one of the four Billies would have remembered. Maybe Roy Thomas Billy.
But like honestly, that's the only production gripe I have with the album is just the guitar tone does not sound as full in headphones as previous Pumpkins albums. Look, I will praise Gish as having a better headphone guitar tone than this album.
C is in chair.
That said, it's much worse production-wise because the vocals are completely buried. So ultimately, Zeitgeist is a better-sounding album. Next
Well,
up
but
on the
that
list,
fits
we have B-Nips.
Yeah.
Because of course, gotta
Wow.
have B-nips.
Wait, who else put B-Nips on their list then?
Me.
I did.
Ah, ha, ha, ha. Okay. Because I was gonna say, like, I put B-Nips way down low.
Better than Jimmy's snare tone, according to this panel.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, guys. I thought I knew you all.
Well, we knew to rank B-Nips, but we didn't know to rate J-Snare.
It should have jumped out at you because that snare tone sounds so good. You should have been like, "Ooh, I need to put this on my list."
What do you think we are, a bunch of producers or something?
Yeah, you think there's any effort put into the show by panelists that aren't named Greg? The answer is no.
You say this, but I'm going to be the only one whose voice sounds really good on this episode.
Well,
Thanks,
yeah, and
Corona.
Gavin, you've heard some of my music. You know my opinion of what a snare tone is, I guess.
Oh, that's true. You want it to sound like a.
Well, I want it to be recorded in a separate studio down the street.
Yeah, and you want it to sound like the flap of an eagle's wing muffled by cotton balls.
Exactly.
Here it is.
Oh yeah, that crispy snare tone.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but B-Nips, we all agree, better than Jimmy's snare tone. Any other comments on B-Nips before we move on?
Everything
Sure.
I ranked below B-Nips should be cut from the album.
Well,
I
we've
feel
got
like
a
it's
few
not
of
really
those.
fair
Next
that we
up on the
continue to
list.
rank Billy Corgan's nipples, despite the fact that we haven't seen them since the Adore era.
Well, I mean, we'll be
that was
coming up
enough.
on them.
I see them every time.
Oh,
I
right, that was a
close my
solo
eyes.
album. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's a solo album coming up in the future.
Mm.
So really, we
Yeah.
shouldn't be ranking them, but
We haven't
are
seen them
because-
yet. Secret
because
B-nips.
I mean, we have. It's in the group chat.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
I mean, look, Steve, I think you can acknowledge that this show is a shit show. This podcast is chaos and anarchy most of the time.
It is true.
All right, so good news, guys. We only have 16 songs left to go.
All right.
God.
So next up on the list, we have Stellar.
Stella.
I forget how this one goes.
It goes
So-
bad.
It's a ballad. Guess who ranked it the highest?
Oh, big.
It's the guy who likes ballads. Greg ranked Stellar the highest.
Weird.
Oh, Gavin, this is the one that turns into Fix You halfway through.
Wait, that
Yes.
I will try to fix you one.
Yeah,
Oh, I never noticed
it
that.
turns into that.
I just noticed that
halfway.
Billy sings really badly on this song.
Oh, I think he sounds great.
No,
I think
this is the one where he's like most like swooping away from the notes, and when he's trying to I'm trying to do a clean vocal performance, just hit the note, sing the note correctly if you want a clean vocal performance on your fancy ballad song, Billy. This was the song where I was like, I need a break from this, and I switched to the screaming cowboy song.
Oh. Yeah, it was one of the Machina 2 sounding tunes.
yeah, there's a section of this album that I sort of considered like a ballad. There's a ballad trilogy on the special edition of the album, which is what we mostly based our ranking off. The special edition plus the song Zeitgeist. So you have Never Lost, Stellar, and Mabel all in a row, and so you have three ballads all in a row, and to be honest, kind of similar sounding ballads.
Yeah, and this one
But-
sucks the most.
Well, and the thing is,
Got 'em.
on the original version of the album, only one of those songs ended up on the full release. So Stellar did not end up on the original 12-track version of the album. But I mean, I still like it. I still find it enjoyable and pleasant to listen to. Just I don't know, makes me smile. I like it.
Yet you still ranked it 9th.
I like every song on this album to a degree. There's nothing I actively dislike. Like there's not necessarily anything on the level of Stand Inside Your Love.
Oh yeah,
Like,
there
that
isn't.
is- That is
yeah.
so, but what I would say is this is a better consistent listen than Machina, but the highs are much lower. So it's just like I enjoy it like as an entire experience front to back more than other Pumpkins albums, but there are other Pumpkins albums where just like the song there's standout cuts that crush everything on this album. So like everything is like solid like A-, B+ material. There's like nothing that I'm like, oh, I hate this. Turn this garbage off. Like this is also fine.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot. My notes actually say this is Billy's worst vocal performance ever, including both his version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow and that Machina tour show that he stopped after 2 songs because he literally couldn't sing anymore.
His version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow is amazing. I don't know what you're...
Aren't you supposed to be the one who likes this band? It wasn't that like the premise of going through the Pumpkins catalog was like I was supposed to be the heel being like, this all sucks, it's alt rock. And here I am like defending this album against the rest of you.
Right? Well, I mean, yeah, mostly the bad songs though. You're the one who was like, oh, the terrible songs on this album, those ones are pretty good.
I mean, I'm going to say nice things about pretty much every song on this album.
Greg,
Well, I mean,
the thing you both do and don't understand about alt rock is that so much of it is bad, and that's why we like it.
I think
I was almost sublime.
honestly, I think he's right. I think the alt rock that everyone agrees is kind of objectively terrible, like, tends to be the alt rock that rises towards the top in the community, and then like, oh wow, they got better with pop production. It's trash. Do we have any other comments on Stellar before we move on? Because the next track is Mabel, and it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, it's also bad.
I ranked it directly above Stellar.
I ranked it directly below Stellar.
Mabel barely breaks the B-Nips barrier for me. It does not break the if I was recutting this album, I would keep it barrier. But if Stellar is the Pumpkins doing The National, Mabel is the Pumpkins doing Death Cab, and I don't really know which of those bands I like more. Huh?
I said, why can't the Pumpkins try and imitate a good band?
I don't know. They should really give it a go.
I mean, they started off trying to be trying to be Kiss. So that's sort of what you're starting with. So I was trying to remember how this one went, and then I looked at my notes and said, I forget how this song goes. And until I revisited the song on a second listen this week, I still continued to forget how it was. But that was like 2 weeks ago when we first tried to record this episode, and I haven't listened to it since. So I don't remember how the song goes. Still better than several others.
Bell. Bell.
I think it's another good ballad. I think the problem is when they released the bonus track version, they stuck all the ballads in a row, so there wasn't that ebb and flow. But I think it's on par with other Pumpkins ballads. I think it's pretty, it's pleasant. The criticism I would have is that, Billy's singing in another language is still him mumbling, so you can't tell what the hell he's saying. Like, oh, that was a different language. That's why I didn't get it, as opposed to him just, not enunciating.
I mean, if you're going to mumble any language, I guess French is the one to do it.
And, to bring up the Beatles on this podcast, because that is what I do, this pairs nicely with the Beatles song Michelle, where Paul McCartney is singing in French. So I got Macca singing in French, Billy Corgan singing in French. It's all romantic and pretty. I like it. Makes
Billy
me
Corgan
smile.
just like diving the vocals from Michelle. Michelle, my bow.
Isn't that what he does on Bullet with Butterfly Wings? Doesn't he do a bunch of dips on that song?
Yeah, but that's like a grungy rock song. It's not a pretty ballad.
Right. Oh, because the song sounds like shit already. That's why it's
You're allowed to miss the notes when you're rocking out.
That's right, Greg. You're starting to get it.
Yeah.
I like Mabel. It's a pretty song. I like the pretty ballads with the Pumpkins. They're my favorite Pumpkin songs. I'm here for the ballads.
I like the pretty ballads where Billy doesn't sing. Daydream.
Yes, the James Eha songs are great.
And all the James Eha ones, and Melancholy, and The Infinite Sadness. All the classics.
Say that you like this song again, you're going to be really proud of this joke I'm about to make.
I like the song.
No. And the name of the song.
I like Mabel.
I like your bell too.
Heyo.
See?
Aw.
That was a good
Nice.
joke.
Wait, hold on.
Hey, jokes.
Jokes.
Do we have any other comments on Mabel before we move on?
Are we talking about the next ballad?
Not sort of, I guess. I don't know if I count this as a ballad necessarily. Next up on the list, we have Pomp and Circumstances.
Oh, Greg and I actually agree on this one.
I don't think we do. I think we ranked in the same spot, but I think I like it a lot more than you do.
Probably.
Because I like Alice Cooper a lot more than you do. And, this track, reminds me of a lot of Bob Ezrinisms and feels like an Alice Cooper-esque closer to an album. Slight hint of The Wall also. Just, big, grand, epic, but, having like a sense of, somberness to it. And just working on a bunch of different levels where it's just, I think it's just very cool. And, some Queen-esque guitars also. I like it.
I put this song at number 2, but I definitely would never have equated this with Alice Cooper.
What would you have equated it with?
Billy Corgan finds a synthesizer and mumbles a while, and it's pretty.
So early 80s Alice Cooper.
Yeah,
Early
this would have
80s
been
Alice
right at
Cooper
home
was
on
really
on like Flush the Fashion. Which
Right?
hey,
Zipper catches skin.
Dada, yeah. Well, and hey.
By the way, Dada is fucking great. And just for the record.
Oh, Greg. No, it isn't.
Dada's great.
Dada?
I will argue with you about this a different time because we still have 14 songs to go.
But also, it is funny that you mentioned that period of Alice Cooper because the only Alice Cooper song that the Pumpkins ever covered is from Flush the Fashion.
And that's Clones.
Clones.
Parentheses, we're all.
Yeah. That's the most
We
interesting
are
thing I can think of
clones.
to say about
We're all clones.
Or Pomp and Circumstances is what we're talking about.
Were you
That's
just
pretty-
singing the melody of Stars with the lyrics of Clones?
Yeah, that's
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
Wow.
my brain is turning to mush.
Well, I can't remember if it was this song or maybe Forgotten Country, where for the most part I was tuning out the album big at this point.
So you just
But-
ranked it wherever Victor did?
Did I?
Not far off. No.
Yeah, you
Our
have
bottom
a
six
lot of
pretty
ones
much
that are the
exactly
same as Victor.
Well, I did not consult him during my ranking at all.
I
but-
actually re-ranked mine after this, and I think while we were talking through the album, I ended up agreeing with a lot of things, and they ended up in the same spot.
I think it was maybe this song where I tuned back in and I was like, I'm listening now because you're annoying me. You actually got my attention back, but for the worst reason, which is that I don't like this. I don't like
When I was lost. Boom. I don't see how that could annoy anyone. That seems like perfectly
It's
lovely
funny
and pleasant to listen to.
Because to me, that's such a wonderfully like Billy Corgan song that it's like I feel like if liking Billy Corgan is at least 30% liking him when he does songs like that, like 17 or Blissed and Gone or Soot and Stars or Set the Ray to Jerry,
Uh-oh, I don't think I like Billy Corgan.
Oh, and that's
Oopsie.
I'm supposed to be the non-fan on this. You are the ones who are supposed to like alt rock. What happened here?
We haven't gotten to any of the songs that I either ignored or paid attention to because I hated it.
James Iha isn't on this album, so I might argue that it's not really a Smashing Pumpkins album.
Did you?
He wasn't on
consider
Siamese
Zwana
Dream
Pumpkins
either.
Album?
I mean, it was a
Or
fake
Siamese
Pumpkins album.
Dream?
yeah, he's not on Siamese Dream
I mean, he was around.
for a day.
I would say that Smashing Pumpkins is Billy Corgan and either Jimmy Chamberlain or James Iha or whoever. Smashing Pumpkins is Billy Corgan's band. He's the guy. and it's whatever
It has to be
artistic
Billy and
statement
at least
he has
one
at the time.
James.
Billy and one or more Jameses.
But even Oceania, I think is still a Pumpkins album. I think you don't need. Billy Corgan is, in my opinion, the only essential ingredient for the Smashing Pumpkins. There are elements that make the Pumpkins better. Like, I love the James songs, and I think what Jimmy brings drumming-wise to certain tracks makes the tracks transcendent and much better. But, like, Zwan, if we consider Zwan a Pumpkins album for the sake of the podcast, which you tended to enjoy, and there's no James Iha, I think this is basically a Smashing Pumpkins album by that same metric.
Oh yeah, I mean it's certainly a Smashing Pumpkins album. Yeah.
In my opinion, it says Smashing Pumpkins in the artist section of the title. In metadata.
Got him.
Got him indeed.
Do we have
I
another
would like
comment on
I would
Poppin'
like this song
Circumstances?
more.
What?
I would like this song more if this album wasn't a million years long, and it was at the end of it.
And I would still hate it.
Do you know how to make this album enjoyable?
How's that?
How?
You make it a million beers long.
Oh,
Oh,
got him.
Got him. I'm just full of jokes.
Jokes.
Full of jokes today.
Gavin is on it.
I'm on it, friends.
Well, hey, so Gavin, you ranked Pomp and Circumstances second from the top.
Yeah.
Next up on the list is the song you ranked at the bottom, 7 Shades of Black, one spot above it.
I ain't got no friends on this panel, it seems. Honestly, I totally forget how that song goes, so I'm going to...
That was the one I was singing today.
I also forgot how this one goes.
Oh, this one. I put it on a little bit in my headphones to...
Oh,
Yeah.
smart.
It's... Quite honestly, I made this ranking so long ago, I forgot why I put this at the very bottom. But I had a very precise reason. Now I cannot fucking remember what it was.
Is it because the production makes it sound just like the other 3 songs around it?
I think it was that, and then I think it's by far the worst use of his the Sleepy Corgan Choir.
Oh,
I
honestly,
definitely ranked this too high.
I think some of his vocal
I moved
arrangement
it.
choices in this one are actually pretty good. Like I like
I
the
moved it down.
I like the sort of paired octave vocals on the that part's pretty good. I ranked this the highest of everybody. I put this fourth. I think it's one of the good songs on the album.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah,
I thought you liked this band.
I do. I think this song is pretty good. It's not quite as good as Doomsday Clock, and it's right next to Doomsday Clock, unfortunately, and sounds just like Doomsday Clock. So you have to compare the two. And so this one's a couple spaces below Doomsday Clock for me, but it's a good song. It's got some cool vocal arrangements. It's got some of the better heavy guitar tone on the album. You know, it's like a mid to low tier Machina song.
I mostly agree with Steve. I think it's a good song too. It's one of the best examples of the Pumpkins rocking out in the entire catalog.
It has the least enthusiastic count in I think I've ever heard in a song. I think after the first chorus, he goes 1, 2, 3, 4. The song happens again.
Oh my God, Billy Corgan, is that you?
It's me. I'm one of the producers.
Here, I will explain my ranking to you. Since I listened to this album once, I forgot this song, or I would have moved it lower. It's fine. It's what track
second
number?
track.
Yeah, okay. It hadn't lost me at this point in the album.
At track 2.
So, yeah, it hadn't lost me immediately. So I think I was being a little generous at the fact where I was like, okay, I'm still here listening to this album, and I'm not mad yet. So
I think I don't think this makes my recut of the album either.
I also think this was the part in the album where I turned to you and said, how come this sounds like they just slapped Billy Corgan on top of a band that he shouldn't be singing with?
Yeah, that's one thing Greg was talking about earlier is that he likes the mix of the where the
I
vocals are
just
forward. It sounds so weird to
hate
me.
this.
Yeah.
It sounds very wrong.
I agree.
Well, Steve brought this up to me in a conversation weeks ago because this podcast got canceled for technical reasons.
Hooray!
But in discussing, this album and why he didn't like it, with the vocals being forward in the mix, so we have two albums as a band. The first album, the vocals were not as forward in the mix, and the second album, the vocals were very forward in the mix. I am considered to be not a very good singer, so the album where the not very good singer was buried in the mix sold very well and was well received by fans and critics. And the album where the vocals were up front in the mix and people could hear how shitty the singer sounds didn't do well. So coincidence? Probably not.
Womp.
But also a coincidence that I'm like, yeah, I really like the production on Lipstick 2 and like the production on this album. So long story short, I have terrible taste.
It's true.
Speaking of my terrible taste, next up on the list is the song I ranked in second place, and we're at the number 12 spot. So there's some disagreement with me.
What did you do?
How much of this is just for the name, though, Greg?
Sincerely, I just think it's a kick-ass song.
Uh-huh.
And there's a So next up on the list is Stars. Which
we are not.
So let me give you a few different things with this as to why this tickles my fancy in many ways. Yes, it's spelled Stars with a Z, just like the 70s glam rock band, which I 100% know that Billy Corgan is a fan of. Like that is just something I wouldn't even need to look up. I just know for a fact he would like that band based upon his taste, his influences, and digging into like obscure bands. He would have liked
he named
Stars.
one of his songs after them.
Yes.
I thought it was after the movie channel.
But also, there's a reference to
AMC. We are.
There's a reference to two classic songs in the lyrics, a reference to Black Diamond and to Purple Haze. I think the song has a really cool marching drum beat that gives it like this sort of like militaristic like epicness. And then when the big gigantic power chords kick in, it feels epic. It's got a really catchy melody. And just it has like this cool balance between like menace, rock, powerful drums. It's just, for me, this is one of the catchiest, most memorable songs on the album, aside from the title. And to me, this just like kicks so much ass and is one of the best, Pumpkins rockers in the catalog. I love it. Second from the top for me.
This song, the beginning always makes me giggle because I imagine that Billy was trying to make himself breakfast one morning, and he was making eggs and bacon and maybe some pancakes, and he reached out with his little hand, and he accidentally touched one of the burners. He went, "Ow!" And then, about a measure and a half later, he does the same thing. "Ow!" Touches another one, and then he recounted that story to Jimmy that day at rehearsal, and Jimmy was like, "Why don't we make a song out of it?" And then they did, and then we had to hear it. So here we are.
And then he brought in the sleepy Corgan choir to sing the same note instead of harmonizing.
Yeah, yeah, he did.
I mean, that's probably how he burned his hand, is he was just sleepy and not paying attention.
That's true. If you're making yourself a full-on breakfast, you gotta be awake.
You got to start with a coffee.
Exactly.
I'm out of coffee. It makes me sad.
Melon coffee and the infinite sadness.
Got him.
Oh, I remember another thing about this song. This is the track where they do "We're the Boys Fear to Tread But Right."
Oh, gross. Where's my hot take button?
My head! Are you the Spicer's head?
Where like it sounds like the band is about to fall apart with just chaoticness, but then they come back in really strong, and it's just really awesome.
But that's totally different from
Where Boys Fear to Tread, where it starts off terrible, and then they pick things up and slowly sync together.
They start out like an orchestra tuning up, and then they rip into the
like a
Righteous Britain.
shitty orchestra.
I in middle school, I learned that entire song on drums, like intro fills and all, and then I had a live version from Brazil where I learned the intro fills like note for note, as best I could. I fucking love Where Boys Fear to Tread.
It's a good song.
And I fucking love Stars.
And I'm fucking meh on Stars. This is one of the Zwan sounding ones to me, and I put it, mid-low. If I were to trim the fat on this album, would this song make the cut? Probably not.
Oh.
But I don't hate it.
I put this at number 12, so thank you, everybody.
I also say it makes a great companion piece with the Dio-led song "We're Stars" from Hearing Aid. They pair very well nicely, but unlike many other songs we've mentioned on the podcast where it reminds you of a much better song, I think they're kind of on par and are both just really fun, kick-ass rockers to listen to.
I just wanted to say Sleepy Corgan Philharmonic.
Go on.
and his Chamberlain Music Quartet.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then two hired people.
Yeah.
Eha, eha, eha. That's me laughing. That's me laughing in Dickens.
Was Jeff Schroeder in the picture by this point?
I don't know. Let's see. Personnel: Jimmy and Billy. There doesn't appear to be a studio band listed for this album.
So it was probably just Billy and Jimmy.
Yeah,
then, I'm betting.
Well, hey, good news, kids. We're in the top 10 of songs on this album.
Oh, nice.
So next on the list, we've got "Come On, Let's Go." It's a Zwan-sounding song.
Yeah.
It really is.
So my take on this one is it sounds like the Smashing Pumpkins cover in Zwan, which is actually a step in the right direction. This one's pretty good.
Yeah,
It definitely has some more minor key menace to it than Zwan. Like, there's a little bit more bite and edge to it than Zwan stuff. So
right, exactly.
That's why I like it less than Zwan stuff.
Billy needs to be a little angry.
It's like, Shadow
Happy
the
Billy.
Hedgehog was covering. Give it that edge.
Zwanek the Hedgehog.
Zwanek the Hedgehog.
I wonder if Billy wrote this song on the same day he wrote Baby Let's Rock for Zwan.
Yeah.
He's been really pumped up that day.
Yeah.
He's like, I want exclamation points and parentheses. Yes.
Yeah.
Just a good fertile day for old Billy.
Please never use the word fertile and Billy in the same sentence again.
Billy is the human embodiment of salted earth.
Scorched earth. Tales of a scorched earth.
Right. Thanks for really clarifying that joke so nobody missed it.
Yet another
Really
joke about
jokes.
death, perplexing some, and just plain scaring most.
Scaring of most. God damn it. I thought I knew it.
No, yeah, just plain scaring most of the children. Although I cut it off halfway through one of those words.
So come on, let's go. It's a catchy, competent rock song. That's why I was thinking "Pomp and Circumstances." Looking at the notes here, but yeah, another good song on the album. What's not to like?
Yeah, this one's fine.
This song almost makes my track cut. I think depending on how, if I added up the minutes of the ones I have above this and it was not pushing an hour, I might add this. I like the riff a lot, and it does remind me of Zwan, which makes me a little bit happy. But I think the title is very stupid. And I like stupid titles, but this one is stupid in a stupid way.
Got him.
Well,
Got 'em.
it sucks when the titles "Come On, Let's Go" and then they just sing about "Come On, Let's Go."
Yeah, that's what the song is about, too.
It's about "Come On, Let's Go."
No
I
Eileen
think the
even.
song is awesome. It's a great song. All these songs are great, except for "Forgotten Country," which is it's good at best, not completely annoying. Any other comments on "Come On, Let's Go"?
Come on, let's go.
It's a
There we go.
Zwan song, so we had nothing to say.
Come on, let's go to the next song.
Next song.
I
Transition.
tossed that
Ooh.
softball hoping someone would get it, and thankfully everyone except Victor jumped on.
Yeah.
So good job, Victor.
And we're just all talking at the same time, including the drop. It's great.
Yeah, it's great.
Our new transition drop is blah, 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 of 13 voices.
So next up on the list is a song that I ranked second from the bottom that everyone else ranked much higher that features a choir of Billies, so all of you are full of shit. Next up is Bleeding the Orchid.
Oh.
Literally
Yeah.
starts off with choir Billy.
Yeah, I hate that part.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's disorganized choir Billy.
No, I think it's actually a very organized choir because they're like knowing to start at different parts in the song. That's actually like, as a former choir kid, it's like, okay, this is where this section of the tenors go in, then the second section of the tenors come in here. It's actually very organized, sir. Fight you
but
on
for
that.
a barbershop quartet, they're really all over the place. And I think it was established early on that that's actually what they are.
Right.
Right.
And I
Well,
actually did barbershop. So,
Whoa, really?
yeah. I
Not
was
the singing
also
part.
a
She
choir
just liked to
kid.
cut hair.
Yeah.
Which is coming in handy during the quarantine. Because all of
And
our
she
hair is
she
getting real-
she did it without a license because she's not going to let big government tell her what to do.
That's right. I'll let the free market decide.
The invisible hand holds the scissors.
That might be the best line ever in this podcast. I don't even want to talk about this song. The song's fine, I guess. But yeah, you guys go.
So I describe this one as a roller coaster of just like really good and really bad sections. So like a roller coaster, you start off way down with that chorus of Billies that's really bad, and then you sort of rise up in the verse, and then you get to the chorus and it starts to kick ass, and then you get to the second pre-chorus and it like really starts to kick ass, and then it gets to the bridge and you're just like ooh, and then it goes back to the last chorus. So I guess this roller coaster like sort of ends at the top of a hill, which usually isn't how they go, and maybe somebody should give Billy Corgan some lessons in roller coaster design, or at least a copy of Roller Coaster Tycoon. Maybe that's what he did. He just like terminated his roller coaster halfway through so that people go flying off and die, because that's what people did in that game. It was like the prequel to The Sims. You just set things up and murder people.
I don't have a ton of notes about this song, but I also did make sure to note that the bridge is particularly bad. Because that's something that's important to me.
It's
when a bridge
important
is
to note
bad.
that bridge is bad. Oh, I like bridges too. You don't, right? So
No, famously.
when a bridge is bad, you're like, if we agree that a bridge is bad, we're definitely right.
Well, they call him Bridge hating
Yeah.
I love bridges.
Victor.
Bridges ain't shit.
Yeah. Come get me, Bridges.
Build a
Bo.
bridge from Final Fantasy 1. Better than this song.
Yeah. Battle on the Big Bridge. Final Fantasy
Much better.
5.
Are we talking about
Oh,
better
yeah.
songs from Final Fantasy 1? Yes.
Oh. Yes.
Got him.
Thanks, RNG, for not dropping the ball.
Bleeding the Orchid.
Is that
What if he sang it over that? Just a mashup.
what if this song
Honestly,
was
it would
about
be
him
superior.
having to pee real bad?
Is that what he calls it? Hold on,
He's
everybody.
bleeding
Got to
the
go
orchid.
bleed the orchid.
A new euphemism.
No,
A new euphemism.
I'm sticking with mine.
I mean, admittedly, it's not as good as obeying the hedgehog.
Wait, milk from the flower? Hold on.
Whoa.
I don't think he's peeing here.
Uh-oh.
Or he's got something very wrong with his, his kidneys.
Is this song about jizz?
Chicken what?
Oh, that's got to be the new drop.
Yeah, I've just put in a marker.
I would just like to.
Off.
I would like to once again remind Steve that part of the premise for these Pumpkins episodes was so that he could talk about music that he likes and shower them with praise.
And then we just kept on doing Pumpkins episodes well after it was relevant. Kind of like the band kept doing albums. Oh!
Oh.
Got
Because
him.
artists should stop doing music after a couple years. They shouldn't be allowed to artistically express themselves.
Correct. And then I hit the wrong drop.
Right?
More.
Anyway, next up on the list is Bring the Lights.
This song has the best moment on the album, and then there's a song that happens around it that's fine.
What's the best moment on the album?
The instrumental of this song rips so fucking hard.
I mean, I like the entire thing. This is, I think, the most Zwan sounding song on the album. I dig it. It's another cool up-tempo pop rock song. What's not to like?
My take on it is it's more like Bring the Light, where light is the homonym, meaning not heavy, like it's light music.
Yeah.
Got him.
Fucking got him.
No,
I don't think it's... I mean, yeah, it's not metal, but I think it's perfectly competent, power pop.
No, yeah, I put this one like fifth. It's a solid song. I think on a better album, it'd be a much lower cut for me, but on this album, it's one of the better ones. If we were doing like a trim EP of this album, this song would probably be about the cutoff.
This song makes the full track listing for me only because that I can't even call it a guitar solo because there must be at least like 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or however many he normally
40.
does. Yeah.
Guitars solo.
Yeah.
Guitars solos.
Yeah. But it fucking rules so hard. It's like I get the Zwan comparison here. The song itself is okay. I don't like the little guitar meedling during the chorus, and I also don't like the melody of the chorus that much. But it's worth it for the guitar part. The good part that's so good.
And that is always a thing. Like when you find a song that you're like, I'm not super into most of this song, but it builds to that one truly great moment. That's a thing. I don't necessarily say that with this song in particular, but I respect that take. So anyway, Gavin, what do you have to say about Bring the Light, Bring the Spike?
I can't remember how it goes, except...
Oh,
yeah.
The light.
Yeah, to me,
Song's great.
It was Billy stabbing at relevancy.
Ouch.
Harsh.
Ouch. I don't know. I found this album to be incredibly authentic and sincere and dug the hell out of it. Well, hey.
I don't think it's not sincere.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, speaking of songs I really dig, next up on the list is my number 1 song on the album.
Ooh.
Next up on the list is That's the Way My Love Is.
Oh, hell yeah. Wait. Why is this so low?
Because the rest of the panel are savages, including Steve.
I mean, mostly Victor
So yeah,
and Julia
Gavin, you
didn't
and I
like
are on
it.
the same page about this. We actually ranked the same number 1 on an episode.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
I put this one above Stars in that this would be an okay Zwan song. If I were to do, this would probably be the cutoff for just if I was doing an album version of this album instead of the giant bloated extended version that for some reason I purchased. This would be about the cutoff, I think. It's okay.
This was one of the few songs I made notes for. And what I wrote was, this sounds like the kind of song an opening band plays, and then you start to wonder how much longer their set's going to be before you can listen to the real band play.
Ouch.
Oh my god.
Because it's like, only if it's a bad opening band, which this song is. Like, this sounds like a shitty band opening for Smashing Pumpkins, and I'm like wondering how much longer I'm going to be stuck here listening to this before I get to hear some good music.
Gavin, I say we let Victor go next so you and I can actually rightfully heap praise on the song after these savages go.
You're goddamn right.
This is Smashing Pumpkins using worship music textures, which is not my favorite.
Ow.
I actually initially had it a little higher in my previous ranking, and then when we listened to it again last night, I was like, no, fuck this.
Man, I feel like I talked you down on a lot of these.
That's not the way my love is.
No, that's the way my love isn't.
It's got a music video that, I've never actually watched this music video. I don't think I've actually watched any of the music videos since the DVD.
Is this the one where he's on the spaceship?
Yeah, he's on a spaceship in like some command chair. With
Yeah,
his,
I've seen that.
His Billy Corgan mustache.
Yeah.
Oh, so he's talking about love in space, so it's like a prequel to Interstellar.
That
So I'm
stupid
gonna-
mustache.
I'm going to read a quote from Billy Corgan about this song before Gavin and I get into it. So,
Please do the voice.
we love the original idea of the song, but that sounded too much like melancholy. right there you have a contradiction of thought. On one level, you know that people want to hear that kind of feeling from us that identifies some of our best work. On the other hand, we don't want to sound like that. So what do? It's not as simple as rejecting the ideas because they're familiar. One thing we've learned from working with Flood was that every idea is adaptable. You know, he gets you to come out of your comfort zone. One simple idea, a change in the guitar rhythm, took us from 1995 to 2005.
Oh yeah, this was when
that quote.
This was when they put together a full lineup, so they looked like the real Smashing Pumpkins. You know, Billy Corgan, Jimmy Chamberlin, the girl on bass, and the kind of Asian-looking dude on guitar.
Yes.
You know, the Smashing Pumpkins.
So Gavin, go ahead. Tell us why the song is great.
It is a beautiful, shining example of the fact that Billy Corgan could still write a goddamn song. It's I don't know. It's catchy. It's pretty. It's just a great Billy Corgan tune.
Yeah, I mean it's a great, beautiful love song, excellent lyrics, great melody. I do think that it isn't as catchy as it could be, and probably them intentionally making it sound less like Melancholy by changing the guitar rhythm probably hurt the song, because they realized, oh shoot, we sound too much like classic Pumpkins. We need to grow and evolve. And I think that might have hurt the song in the long run, but I think the core of it is still so good that even with that slight ding against it, it's still number one on the album. You know, Is it as good as Stand Inside Your Love? Absolutely not.
No.
But, I mean, it's still a fine Pumpkin song, would go great on a playlist. Just excellent. Musical excellence.
Yeah, it's, and what's funny is that it has the same guitar part rhythm-wise as Bodies. And it's even that same kind of, like, wide chord. Like, it's a similar chord to Bodies. Bodies, the Smashing Pumpkins song, not the...
right.
Damn it!
Not the Drowning Pool song.
Not the Drowning Pool tune.
It's like you just throw a little wah pedal on there.
Yeah.
That's the way the Bodies hit the floor.
That's the way. Yeah, but no, this is, I really wish that Billy would have put out, or that version that quote sounded like Melancholy unquote would have leaked, because I'm betting that that's even better, because it seems like they came by it sounding like a Melancholy track by just writing it and the way that the song kind of asked to be written. So I'd be curious to hear what the original was like.
Yeah, I would too. Like I said, I really respect that the Pumpkins were, trying to, whether or not they succeeded, most of the panel thinks that they didn't succeed, but I applaud them for trying to not just, rest on their laurels and repeat the past. Like, they were trying to continually grow and evolve as a musical act, as, an artist with a statement. And so I respect them for, trying that. And I think doing it in a way that is definitely sincere. Whether or not it's successful is, I think, open to debate. But I think it's definitely very sincere attempts to grow and evolve. And I think this song is the shining star on top of the hill, except according to the rest of these savages.
Well, here's the thing. I am not married to the original Smashing Pumpkins sound, and I'm not a particularly big fan. So they had more than enough room to grow and evolve to my uneducated ears. And this song is bad.
Oh, damn. It's hard to refute that. I just think that it's bad, but, personal preference.
I'm unbiased. I am untainted. My opinions are pure.
Objective.
And they're correct. And this song is bad.
Any other comments on That's the Way My Love Is before we move on? Ouch, my soul.
Take that, Greg Soul. Greg Soul is like 7 shades of black.
Oh.
Anyway, next up on the list
Got
is
him.
the title track, Zeitgeist.
Sort of.
Hey.
Was that actually on any of the versions of it? Yeah, there's one version that had Zeitgeist on it, right?
Yes.
The Target version.
Yes, it's very stupid that the title track was only on certain versions of the album.
Oh, but that's such a Billy Corgan thing. Like, there was a tune called Siamese Dream, but it wasn't on the... Oh, I guess Melancholy was on the album. Never mind.
But it's still a very Billy Corgan thing.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, was there actually a song called Siamese Dream?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
think I've ever actually heard it. I just assumed that was a reference to the song with the lyrics about a Siamese dream with the, in a dream we are connected. Siamese twins. At the wrist. We sound like a perfect Billy Corgan choir. We should do a Billy Corgan barbershop quartet over here with just the
let's
two
see
of
if we
us.
could do the intro to Bleeding the Orchid.
No one's jumping on that?
Oh my god.
Perfect.
You guys are going to get a copyright strike.
You can't just
That's why we're not on
play the
Spotify,
recording
kids.
like that. Also because we don't know how to be.
I know how. It's just like it's inconvenient to do, and we'd be stricken, so I don't bother.
What would we get stricken for?
The upcoming Rocky episode, which came out before this.
Oh. Wait. What would get the Rocky episode stricken?
I made it cool where it's like the beginning of Rocky 2, where it begins with our last Rocky podcast while Rocky music plays, and then the beginning music of Rocky plays while the podcast starts because I'm a nerd. Anyway, Zeitgeist, it sounds like a cool 60s hippie anthem. I like it.
It sounds like it's not quite as good as Stumbling, but gosh darn it, Billy tried.
I like it better than Stumbling.
Oh, what? Why are you so wrong, Greg?
I don't know. I hang out with you all the time.
That's true. I probably... Ooh, got me.
I think we're just perpetually making each other have worse and worse opinions about things.
As iron sharpens iron.
Oh, are we a Christian men's group now? Let's grab some of those CCM pads that Billy was using earlier.
I like this song a lot, and even though I complained a lot about the tracks towards the end of the album being bad, partially because they're at the end of a long album, I liked this one because it was sort of a pleasant punctuation point on the end of a long album instead of a long song at the end of a long album.
It's a breath of fresh air.
A breath of fresh acoustic guitar. Yeah, no, this song is pretty good. It's not the best acoustic song that they've ever done, but it's not a bad song by any means. I would have included it on the regular version of the album if I'd had my druthers, but for some reason, Mr. Corgan didn't ask me.
I feel like a lot of the bonus track shenanigans is the label, and he might not have gotten to choose exactly what the finished album was. So I don't know how much I blame him for the title track not being on the album.
Well, he should have used the power of his numbers with all four of the Billy choirettes and
should have ganged up on those record execs.
Yeah.
If they all stacked on top of each other, they'd look like one normal sized person. But yeah, Zeitgeist, it's a song that's pretty good. Any other comments before we move on?
Very good.
Woo.
All right, well, next on the list is
Steve's creepy voice.
It's so loud.
You're the one who kept telling me to turn up the drops.
So anyway, next up on the list is a ballad. So Steve Hates It, Never Lost is next on the list.
How is this higher than That's the Way My Love Is?
It sounds good.
Yeah.
When you listen to
One
it.
thing about it is
Julia
that it's
ranked
good.
this as number one.
You put this as number one?
Yeah. I liked it. This sounds like a song I would listen to, maybe. If it was
sounds like
done a little better.
esque song. If this was covered by James Gameboy, if this album was covered in its entirety by James Gameboy.
Oh,
Ooh.
fuck me.
Actually, this would be a really good challenge. Victor, you should cover this entire album. Especially this song since your girlfriend likes it.
I expect it by this next coming weekend.
Yeah, we'll be reviewing it. I have to have it done in time for you guys to listen to it for the next episode next weekend.
We need at least time for one listen through. So,
Yeah. And it's going to be long. So,
or you can do what you did for Outtake the Rain, just like really shorten up these songs.
Right? Just shorten them up, play them faster.
yeah. Cut half of the verses out.
All of the bridges.
Yeah. I did the bridge and I'll take the rain.
But yeah, Never Lost. It's a ballad. I like it. Steve doesn't like it. It's a ballad. The rest of you with actual commentary, please comment.
I mean, I didn't dislike it because it's a ballad, Greg. I disliked it because it sounds like Zwan covering Dave Matthews Band.
Oh my god.
You're the one that likes this band, right?
Usually, sometimes they put out lots of songs, and some of them aren't very good, though. Billy Corgan just needs, Jimmy to more Jimmys to, filter him.
Yeah.
How much power do you really think they had in filtering him? Like, really?
I don't know.
How much could James Iha say, I think that song on Adore is shit, Billy, and do you think he'd actually listen?
A lot? No, probably not.
Okay, well, yeah, well, I like that fantasy world you live in.
Me too. It's neat. There's unicorns.
Unicorns aren't in the Bible, Steve.
They are, in fact, if you read the King James translation, the
Or if
only
you read
correct
Narnia,
one.
which is canon.
I guess
Dinosaurs weren't in the Bible either.
they're
So
also
they don't
in the
exist.
Bible. They just get called dragons in the King James version and hyenas in other translations.
Whoa.
Those are the same creature.
I've
to
always
me.
considered those things to be basically the same.
Also, the Book of Job describes something that's pretty clearly a brontosaurus, which it turns out did exist again. Scientists have decided brontosauruses did in fact exist. They switched back.
Yeah, they lived on the planet Pluto, nerd.
Ah!
So
Never
Never
Lost
Lost.
is good. It sounds good. It's like a nice
Yeah.
it's a nice change up on the album. I think this one really benefits from the sequencing, but I also think the song is generally solid. And
So- You're saying that the first ballad that they play before they play 3 ballads in a row hasn't worn out its welcome.
yes, I'm saying that.
All right.
I'd
Gavin,
probably
what did you
love
think of this
Sand
one?
First song if a different band did it.
Ooh, well, you're gonna hear one by probably Tuesday.
I
hope.
don't like Billy Corgan.
Mm.
This song is the sonic equivalent of. Oh.
Sonic?
Hello?
Hello?
Sonic?
Hello?
Did someone say something? Fuck, I'm so
this-
horny.
No, I'm really loud.
This song is the audio equivalent of a wet croissant.
Damp croissant.
Never sont.
Soak my croissant, daddy. 'Cause I
So-
like this song.
So yeah, Julia, you rank this as your number one. Why do you think this is so much more superior to everything else on the album?
I don't know. I just liked listening to it. I thought it sounded good.
The one time.
The one time I heard it. Yeah, what? Let's see.
It's the one that goes boo-doo, boo-doo, boo-doo.
But not the other one that does that exact same thing.
Right.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, this song sounds great.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it sounds like, in terms of slower music that I lean towards, this is that type of thing. So I was like, okay, I like this sound. And then I kept scooting it higher and higher up my list. Maybe I got too horny for it. Maybe I didn't. Who knows?
Too horny for that hedgehog.
Because I did find it sonically pleasing.
Heyo.
Well, good news, kids. We're in the top 4 now. And that's up on the list is Steve's least favorite
Yeah,
song
I
from the
don't-
album.
I don't know what's wrong
So
with
this
so many
shows
of
how
you.
wrong Steve is about this album by this band he supposedly likes. Next up on the list is United States.
Ah,
Oh, you mean the middle section of 100,000 Years from Kiss Alive?
Yes, which is the best part of 100,000 Years from Kiss Alive.
Yeah, 100,000
Wait a
Years is
minute.
also an alternate title of this album.
Got him.
Wait, but 100,000 Years is such an amazing song.
No, it is, but that drum solo is just phenomenal.
It's okay.
It's really, on a technical level, not the most impressive, but I think it has a certain energy and atmosphere that is fun and wholly unique to that performance that is never really captured on any other recording by any other band.
I think if it was a little shorter, I mean, like,
love the length. I love how long.
Oh,
it
really?
is.
Because
Yes.
I'm not critiquing the technicality of it. Like, I love Peter Criss, but I just think that if it was about the length of like the God of Thunder solo from Alive 2,
Which I'm not a fan of.
what?
It's kind of boring. But anyway, back to Smashing Pumpkins and not Kiss. Hi, Craig.
Speaking of boring,
No, I think this is a great Pumpkins rock song. Like it's epic in length. It kicks ass. It's got great riffs, and it's all about like, hey man, we're becoming a fascist country, and that sucks. Like this is cool. This is a very cool kick-ass rock song. But Steve famously doesn't like to rock.
that's true.
Also loves fascism.
Maybe let's not.
So
rock.
yeah, so that's
Baby,
why
let's
Steve has.
not.
I mean, Steve just wants, fascism. That's why he doesn't like this song.
So, in a lot of the early episodes of this podcast, we would get, especially the early Kiss ones, a thing that came up a lot was people would frequently talk about skipping songs on albums that they otherwise liked. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, I like this album, but I always skip this track," or people would be surprised when they say like, well, yeah, this is one of the few albums that I never skip any tracks on. And that flabbergasted me. Like, if I like an album, I like an album and listen to it all the way through. And even if there's like one song that I'm like, it's not my favorite, I still listen to it all the way through, except for this one. United States is a song that I skip. I'm like, it comes up, I'm like, I don't have 10 minutes to waste on this song. Every other, maybe it's the 10 minutes thing, right? This one is, in fact, 10 and not 9. Correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, it's just shy of 10 minutes long. 8 seconds short of it. So maybe that's the problem. Is I love 9-minute Smashing Pumpkins songs. Glass and the Ghost Children. Yeah, like great song. If they can do a 9-minute song, it's great. If they do a 10-minute song, apparently it sucks.
Why don't you just listen to 9 minutes of it and skip the end?
Yeah, maybe I'll go
the
through.
end is the best part.
I'll go through and
skip the beginning.
edit out a single minute worth of excise the worst minute of that song. I'll probably like do like individual measures and things like that. Be like, that measure sucks. Gone. Try to get rid of 50 seconds.
What I want is the 25-minute version where when it gets to that part where it does the da 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 da, you just loop that for like 2 hours and then let it go into the next section where Jimmy grooves under it.
This might have been the moment where I switched back to the follow-up video to the Screaming Cowboy song, which was somebody looping the Screaming Cowboy part for 10 hours.
See, this is one of those songs where, like, if the Pumpkins did like a live 25-minute version of this, I would be all over that and think it was awesome.
They probably did.
Oh, I'm sure they did. That is probably, yeah.
They almost certainly did that.
Yeah, well, then good job, Billy. Thumbs up from me. Good job, pal.
I'm certain Craig has probably sat through a version or two of this live. That was entirely too long.
I wonder how much Craig is like pulling his hair out over this. Oh, right, he shaved his head bald. So if he had hair to pull out, he'd be like, I thought these guys were Pumpkins fans. I can't believe this.
Is that your Craig impression?
Anything. Yes.
Or is that your Craig impression?
Yes, that's my Craig impression.
I like it. We were doing impressions of each other before the show went live. I don't know who I'm saying that to.
The audience.
To Craig.
Oh, hi, audience. Oh, wait, there's an audience here.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, they're not here though, Gavin. They're like listening remotely in the future.
In the future?
Yeah.
How does this work?
Time travel?
This ain't the radio?
Have you noticed
We'll do it live.
What does that mean to play us out?
Craig couldn't be here today because he went to a Smashing Pumpkins show in 2008 and they're still playing United States.
That's pretty good. But
Got
Vic,
him.
you rank this as number 1.
Yeah, this song is awesome. So when we were listening to it yesterday and it came up, I was like, okay, this is the song that I have as my number one. And for the first couple of minutes, I was like, maybe I fucked up here. And then everything after kind of like the really long intro I'm into, and it's kind of just a nice groove to settle into. And then every movement after that, I like more than the previous one. And I already pretty much like the original one. And then by the time it gets to the da 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 da's, I did an embarrassing air drum fill that was not even close to what happens in the thing. And then I banged my head doing with my hair because it's way longer than it normally is. And it was genuine. So, yeah, it stayed at number one for me. This song is fucking awesome.
It's your number one?
Yeah.
Dude.
Julia's number two.
Yeah, I thought the beginning was boring. And then I also liked it.
So, yeah, Steve is clearly just wrong about this song.
Nope. No, I'm not.
Where do you have it, Gavin?
I put it at number 4. No, sorry.
Yeah.
I put it at number 5.
Hell yeah. I'll take that.
I mean, I like it, but it's no Pomp and Circumstances or That's the Way My Love Is or Jimmy Snare Tone.
Sorry, I forgot that those are the songs it had to be.
On that, we could agree. It is not those.
It is not.
They were using the song as the encore for some of the tour.
Wow.
And no one in that audience ever applauded for an encore again.
Right?
Okay, we get it. When a band wants to be done, they should be done.
Don't punish us.
They told us that they were out of songs, and then they just pulled this out.
Yeah, what if they were out of the songs? They hadn't played Bullet with Butterfly Wings yet.
Yes.
The fans encore them, and they played this.
They wasted their monkey's paw wish.
If they did that, Smashing Pumpkins would elevate to probably my number 2 favorite band.
Well, I want to say they didn't play a lot of like the big hits on the Zeitgeist tour.
They opened with this at one show.
Oh,
wow!
Awesome.
That would have been pretty rad, actually.
Maybe that was.
And was this the tune that would get to be like 45 minutes long, and Billy would bring out timpani? No, this was a thing. I swear to Christ.
Wouldn't that
you
be
would use them on Pomp and Circumstances?
That would be the worst if you like went to a Smashing Pumpkins show and they just started with, United States, and then they were like, all right, that was our 3 hours. Sorry, good night.
No, here's the best Smashing Pumpkins show. 2-hour version of United States, closing with a cover of Black Diamond by Kiss.
Oh, that'd be badass. I want a show where they just do they do French movie theme, but it's like a 45-minute long version of that. And then they do Sweet Sweet, and then it's like encore time, and they come out and they do Pistachio Medley in its entirety, and they learned it.
Oh wow! They opened the Zeitgeist tour with United States. The very first show in France, they were like, all right, let's start with United States.
Like what else is on that set? Like read what's the list?
United States, Today, Stand Inside Your Love. So like they start off real bad and they get really great. Bleeding the Orchid, Doomsday Clock, Home, Hummer, Stars, Tarantula, Bullet, Gossamer, Forgotten Country, 33, Rocket, Winterlong to Sheila, Glass and the Ghost Children, just in case you weren't tired of 10-minute songs. Cherub Rock, 1979, Tonight, Never Lost, That's the Way My Love Is, Disarm Zero, and Untitled. Then the encore was Shame and Silverfuck. And then
That's
encore,
a great show.
Oh, they played Shame?
and then encore 2, as if like you weren't exhausted after Shame and Silverfuck in encore lengths, was Annie Dog and Muzzle.
That is so awesome.
That's amazing.
What the heck? They were really playing it by ear for this these set lists. So 2 days later, they played in Luxembourg, and it was Lucky 13 to open. 7 Shades of Black, Today, Bullet,
nice.
Bleeding the Orchid, Way My Love Is, Glass, Hummer, Tarantula, Zero Stars. United States was the 12th song they played.
Oh.
The encore was Cherub Rock, and then Muzzle. And then second encore was Gossamer. So weird.
Yeah, they're great.
With just Shame somewhere near the middle of the set.
Hey, Shame is a badass tune.
No, yeah, it's great.
Shame is better than anything on this album.
I agree. And I like this album. Just Shame's a great song.
Shame is such a badass
song. Okay.
And then they switched back to the exact same set list as the first show for the third show. Weird.
Well, hey, kids, we've only got 3 songs left on this ranking. So let's go to the number 3 song with Doomsday Clock.
What the fuck is going to be number 1 on this album?
Surprise!
I thought that was going to be
out.
number 1. Yeah.
I know you've only got 2 songs left on your list, Gavin. So you can probably guess it's one of those 2.
Weird.
Yeah, and now I'm angry.
Yeah, we'll get to it. Anyway, so Doomsday Clock.
That's a good song.
It's a cool song. Obviously, this reminds me of Watchmen because they had, the Batman Forever songs in the Watchmen trailer. And so a Smashing Pumpkins song explicitly called Doomsday Clock is just going to remind me of Watchmen. It's cool. I like it. Good Pumpkins rocker. The vocals are finally mixed appropriately on one of their albums. I like it.
I find this song to be relatable because who among us has not written this exact riff before?
I haven't.
I haven't.
I don't really write riffs so much as I just hit power chords and then sing notes on them.
Okay. I'm just not in love with this riff, but I do love how it's played, I suppose, and then it's just weird how far up in the mix Billy's voice is, but overall this song is pretty good.
Yeah, Billy
definitely
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Definitely makes my cut for the album. I actually moved it up a little bit from my previous ranking. But it was never really in danger of being cut from the album, but it's just doesn't totally do it for me, but I love the energy of it.
I think this is one of the better songs on the album. It's also where the production kind of demonstrably hurts it the most, because this is still right in the middle of the loudness wars. So you get this really squashed master of this song. And I, again, got to disagree with Greg that the Billy up front is not the correct choice.
Yeah.
I agree completely. It sounds like he's just slapped on top of this and it doesn't match at all, which sucks because I like the riff and I like the instrumental work on this song. I think it's really cool and I like listening to it. And then Billy's there and I don't like that part. Get him gone.
This band would have been great if it weren't for the, guy who wrote all the songs.
Well, I like him
in
in
fairness,
their
people
other...
say that about Lipstick Generation.
Hey-o.
Ouch. No, I like Billy Corgan's voice in their older stuff. I think it's great and it mixes really well. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I like it
perfect.
when I can't hear it.
All rock fans are so weird.
Yeah.
We love this singer, but only when we can't hear him because he's not very good.
Yeah,
Y'all
it's
make
so
no
hard to
sense
understand
to me.
about that.
I think he meshes better with the band instead of sounding awkwardly thrown in at the end.
Right. I mean,
it sounds like he's doing karaoke.
We've discussed this several times, Greg, that the Billy Corgan's voice works best when it's just one of the instruments in the track and not the all right, let's stick this way up front. It's the lead that everybody should pay attention to.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say too. His voice is an instrument.
It's like he was a good producer who knew how to mix the voice as just another instrument and make the whole gestalt of the song work rather than an
Flood was a good producer?
Rather than an egomaniac vocalist.
I don't think it's egomaniac vocalist. I think it's just...
I mean, he's definitely an egomaniac vocalist.
I mean, no, he's an egomaniac, definitely. But, he was an egomaniac the entire time. He's just an egomaniac doing a different production technique.
He's just a different type of egomaniac rather than the egomaniac guitarist, which he was better at.
Anyway, it's a good Pumpkins rock song, and this rocks better than anything on Gish. Next up on the list is Tarantula.
These chair drops are so long.
Good.
Tarantula is another good rock song.
It's the single.
Tarantula is it should be on the F-Zero GX soundtrack, which is some of the highest praise I can give to music.
I mean, that's true. That's a great soundtrack. It'd be the worst song on that soundtrack, but yeah, I can see it barely making the cut as like a iTunes exclusive bonus track.
Yeah.
This one was very sequenced correctly in that they didn't have it right next to Doomsday Clock and 7 Shades of Black. So you didn't notice that it kind of sounds exactly the same like again. But it's good. It's a good sound that they could have quickly abused. They did quickly abuse straight into the ground. Needs more Paris Hilton is what I'm saying.
In my notes, I wrote, I suspect if I understood more of the lyrics, I would think this was lame.
If you what? Say it again?
If I understood more of the lyrics, I would think this was lame. But luckily I don't, and I just hear the flange on the guitars, and I get excited.
I mean, I think it's just a song about how much he loves Paris Hilton. But how they don't have a particularly good relationship because he's Billy Corgan and she's Paris Hilton.
How did that not work out?
I don't know. I don't know why like she was involved in a lot of the marketing and visuals for this album. Like she was.
Yeah, like imagine looking at Billy Corgan and saying that's hot.
All right, I've actually got a
really
pretty
bad.
hot take. Paris Hilton's
really
solo album better than Zeitgeist.
I'm insane with anger.
And I like this album, but that's a really good pop album.
It is a good pop album.
I haven't heard it.
I haven't actually bothered to listen to it.
It's good pop music.
I haven't heard it, but I love it.
Yeah, good.
Is Tarantula the
That's
song
hot.
that has the big drum solo? No. Fuck, what song had that drum solo that I'm thinking of?
Would that be Stars? Or
Oh,
United?
yeah. Yeah.
No.
Oh, I missed my funny line for that. God damn it. All right.
No, I already made my comments about how it was the better version of Where Boys Fear to Tread.
Oh, and that was about that drum solo?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say that drum solo, and I love Jimmy Chamberlain, but it's like, you know how when you're jamming with people, especially for all you drummers out there, you know how when you're jamming with people and it's going
You just
reasonably
ignore,
well.
You ignore everything else they're doing, and you're just in your own little world that doesn't sync up with everybody else.
No. It's that inevitable point after the guitarist has done a solo and they look at you as the drummer and they nod at you enthusiastically as if to say, okay, now you shred. And you don't really want to, but you do. That's that drum solo on that song. Is I could just totally see Billy like, all right, your turn, Jimmy. Do it. Play the drums, Jimmy. Come on. And then Jimmy just like, okay, all right, Billy, I'll do it. And then he does it.
That was a really spot-on imitation of what Billy Corgan sounds like when he's speaking. It's
Yeah.
almost like he was in the call with us.
He kind of, he's almost French.
Well, he's
Disney French.
He's famously the reader of wizard people.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out like which drop is most likely to give us a wizard people joke. Probably this one.
Again with the oil of Olivier.
There we go. Tarantula. It's a cool song. It has one of the cooler riffs in the entire Pumpkins catalog. I like it. It rocks.
It was why I never listened to this album. Was I heard that song and I thought, I don't need this in my life, and now here I am.
I guess I actually see where you're coming from, Gavin. I think as a single, I don't love it, but I think where it sits in the album itself, it fits really well.
Just a
I
decent
agree.
album cut. Oh, I got an agree drop.
Can I get an amen?
Yes.
Yeah, I was open to it at that point in the album, and I was like, okay, this is cool. I like it.
He also uses a similar tone to like in the kind of the lead parts. That reminds me of some of the lead parts in the Wolf Mother discography, which made me a little bit happy.
I like Wolf Mother.
Wolf Mother has never made me happy.
Wolf Children
Wolf
made
Mother's
me
cool.
happy, but in a sort of sad anime kind of way.
So, any other comments on Tarantula before we move on?
F-Zero.
No,
All right, I'm done talking about this great song.
All right, well, hey, we're at the number one song in the ranking, so let's go through the list from the bottom to the top.
Wow.
Sleepy Throats of the Billy Corgan Choir.
Yeah.
For God and Country. Jimmy Snare Tone. B-Nips. Stellar. Mabel. Sorry, Poppin' Circumstances. 7 Shades of Black. Stars. Come On, Let's Go. Bleeding the Orchid. Bring the Light. That's the Way My Love Is. Because, yeah, sure, rank it there, guys. Zeitgeist. Never Lost. United States. Doomsday Clock. Tarantula. But the best song on Zeitgeist by Smashing Pumpkins, according to this panel of experts and me. Death from Above.
Damn straight it
Oh,
is.
whoa. Nice.
This song makes this album worth it. Like all of those like kind of sloggy songs, like, oh, why did I have to listen to this? But then you get to Death from Above, and you're like, yes, this kicks all the ass.
Except for this song would be a lot higher for me if it wasn't for those goddamn backing tracks, vocals.
Those are great.
Yeah, they somehow work.
They're awesome.
They work for me on this one. On this song alone, they really work. That's
it's
not true.
weird for
They
me to
kind
agree
of
with Steve
work
on
on
this episode.
Doomsday and Tarantula too, but this one they really work on. This song is great.
Yeah,
I
they
agree
even
that
use
I like
they even
this
use
song
a
a
pitch
lot,
pipe
yeah.
beforehand and everything.
They all cocked their little straw hats to the side.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey.
Steve, you got the
Hello,
win this
my
ranking.
rock girl.
Hello, my pal.
Yeah, it's a great
I
song.
sound too much like Dave Mustaine, my Billy Corgan.
Oh,
Oh.
you mean you sound too much like Dave Mustaine to sound like Dave Mustaine in a bald wig?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
They're
that
the same
where you
person.
decided to go?
Yeah, that's
it's
where you
easier
decided.
to cover up all of that hair with a bald
Billy
wig
Corgan
rather
is
than
Dave
put a
Mustaine.
wig on.
Hello, me.
Correct.
It's Billy again. Oh, wait. It's Billy Corgan.
Hello, I'm here.
Fuck. Sorry, I didn't make him French enough.
Yeah.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Billy.
Oui, oui. Oh.
See, French Billy would take your criticism of that other song being a wet croissant a lot more personally.
How dare you dampen a croissant?
So I've noticed something about this. We're at the number one song in the ranking, and almost no one is actually talking about the song, which maybe says to how everyone feels about the album.
Yeah.
If there's that little excitement for what I think is a great song and would absolutely go on my Best of Pumpkins playlist.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Gavin, you loved this song the least. Putting it at number 6, I think, is how arithmetic works. What's your
but
problem?
It would have been a lot higher if it wasn't for those background, the backing vocals.
The sleepy throats of the Billy Corgan Choir.
Yeah, the sleepy throats of the Corgan Choir. It's I mean, it's a great tune. It's sounds like a Zwan leftover kind of. Yeah, no, it's a great song. It's hard to muster a lot of feelings about this album.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess at this point we might as well just go into our final thoughts and wrap up on the album.
So one more note
was
on
anyone-
this song is I'm looking at the lyrics right now, and I realize I have no idea what the lyrics of this song are. They're the lyrics that I think he's saying, which it turns out have almost nothing to do with the actual lyrics, which is how Billy Corgan's voice is correctly meant to be done. Is if you know what he's actually saying just based on listening to the song, then he's too clear. He needs to be mumbly and buried.
I am
Great.
so
It's a
confused
great
by you
song.
saying that you like this band. This band is best when I can't actually know how terrible the lyrics are.
Yeah.
But then again,
The liner notes should also be handwritten in a bad cursive.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's the stuff.
That's the stuff right there.
Oh,
Yeah.
That Siamese Dream lyric insert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love not knowing what the hell any of those lyrics are about.
Vague angst.
Vague angst.
Vangst.
Hello, angst. It's me again.
So yeah, Zeitgeist. It's an album.
It's sure it's. I'm that's kind of understating it. It's a lot of album.
And we listened to it.
We did. Listen to it a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Or once.
Listen to it. Like that's still a lot of listening to the Smashing Pumpkins.
Good point.
This is easily the Pumpkins episode the Pumpkins album I've listened to the most before doing an episode on it. Because I listened to it a lot the week we were prepping for it. I listened to it once this week, and I would just put it on in my regular rotation schedule just because I liked it. I think it's a good album. I enjoy it, and I think if there is an album of the Pumpkins where I really want to rock out for pretty much the whole experience, this is my pick. This is my Rockin' Pumpkins album.
And the crowd goes wild.
Everybody's so excited.
Yeah, I just don't see myself listening to this one a lot.
I mean, it
I
doesn't
think I
help
might
that
listen to it again.
this one's not on any streaming services, so it's 2020. You can't listen to it if you want to.
I mean, you can, because pirating's really easy.
Yeah.
You are a pirate.
But were you guys happy with the ranking? Surprised by it? I was pleasantly surprised with how high United States ranked.
I was
because
mad at that.
Steve.
What's
Yeah.
wrong with you savages?
My joy solely comes from Steve's misery.
Which is fair.
Kind of not shocked with how everyone didn't realize how great That's the Way My Love Is. And also, didn't expect Stars to rank so low. Like, I figured I would like it more than most, but I didn't expect it to rank that low overall.
If it was up to me, it'd be lower.
I don't know what episode it was, but not too long ago I listened to an episode of this fine show, and Steve specifically said that he didn't like United States from this album.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is gonna be good.
I thought that song was more fun than a lot of these other ones.
I think so. I think ultimately I would listen to this song again if it was as easily accessible as many of the other ones are, aka just on a streaming service I use. And I would probably make a version at most that is 11 tracks long. And, well, I guess if I did 12, then I would have Billy Corgan's nipples in there too. But, yeah, I would certainly cut a lot of the shit at the end and throw in Zeitgeist. But yeah, I think actually overall I'm generally positive towards it. It's just so long that it makes Shiny Eyed Babies sound like an EP.
And in fairness, we did all the bonus tracks. So
Wow.
this album is much shorter. The original version is only 12 songs.
So it's only 3 hours.
Yeah.
Right, it's only 3 hours. But, the songs that weren't on the original version would be, Zeitgeist, Death from Above, which one was a bonus track.
Yeah.
Mabel and Stellar, I believe, were also bonus tracks, not on every edition. So, and of course, and the title track. So, there a lot of. Hey, the best song was apparently one of the bonus tracks, so it's probably good that we did them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm overall. You know what? I'm not happy with this ranking. This ranking is terrible. I'm gonna say it.
Wow.
This, ordinarily, I'm like, yeah, I'm fine with it. Nah, terrible ranking. You're all savages.
Flipping
it's a great
tables
album.
over here.
Gavin, what did you think about this ranking?
I mean, I'm shocked that that Greg and I put the same song at number one, and that wasn't because everyone else, that it was just Greg and I just kind of locked in on that song. Those who didn't put that song at number one are wrong.
Correctly wrong, my friend.
Other than that, I guess I'm kind of shocked. I wouldn't have expected Death from Above to take it.
I'm pleasantly surprised.
Not
by
that I don't like that song. Yeah, I like that song a lot, except for the backing vocals.
Right.
But I'm surprised, but also not surprised. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And Julia, it looks like your top songs all ended up in the top pretty much. So you're correct again. How do you feel?
Feels good. I do wish that I had more time. Well, now I have all the time in the world, but even so, beforehand, I wish I would have had more time to listen to this, because it would have been interesting to see if my rankings moved around at all. But I only had the chance to sort through this once, so this is just my very, very initial response to this album, which again was overall positive. I mean,
that's what Steve does for most albums on this show. So really,
sure. Well, this album's so long that I just kind of forgot a lot of the songs before we started, which isn't great. But then I did remember all the songs that were good, and those are the ones that made me like the album. So.
Yeah, well, she was yesterday, I think. She was like, I'm not sure if I should do it because I would only be able to listen once. And I was like, that is what Steve usually does. So you're going to be okay. You're going to be in lipstick in no time.
It's true.
I'm going to be the only one not in the band if we keep things up.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, honestly, probably a good thing. Hey, time for plugs. Victor, where can people find you when you're not fronting Lipstick Generation?
Well, when I'm not doing that, which I do all the time, you can find me on Twitter at the VictasticK, and you can find me. You can find my music under the name James Gameboy on Spotify, on Bandcamp, and on Patreon. And if you go to the Bandcamp and maybe Spotify now, I put it up a few days ago, so it should probably be on Spotify by now. I put out a new sort of an ambient EP called Home 2, which is just about about a year and a half of my life living in a place that I have now lived in a long time, and I'm starting to think of it as home. So it's my second home, Home 2. It's the sequel to my home.
Well, you're stuck there now. It's your only home.
Yes, that's true. That's very true. But yeah, if you got 25 minutes, there's an ambient album for you.
And I will go on record as saying that I quite enjoyed that album.
Which shocked me. I will go on record as saying I did not expect Greg Schroyen to like that album.
I will go on record as saying, what?
It's good. Did a good job.
Thank you.
Did we just turn into an episode of Home Improvement?
I would hope so.
I got dibs on Wilson.
Julia, where can we find you when you're not watching Home Improvement?
When I'm not peering over my fence to spy on my neighbors and give advice, you can find me on Twitter at Lady Celery, and also on Instagram, where I'm selling art in these sad, sad times. So that's what I'm up to now that my life is over. Welcome to the apocalypse.
Let me tell you, it's a great time to sell art when people have no disposable income.
If you have any rich friends, please send them my way.
Gavin, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, the internet is about the only place you can find me right now other than my home. So look for me there. No, I'm in...
No, don't. Social distancing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, no, I didn't mean look for me at my home. I mean look for me online. Yeah, I'm on Instagram at It's Mr. Gavin. I'm on Twitter, Bentley Music. Bentley has an Instagram too. I'm on Facebook. I recently started a Twitch channel, things like that. Yeah. Gavin WA42 down on the Twitch, where I do Soon, drum stuff. I played some video games yesterday, though, with some people. Some bad Star Wars games. That was a lot of fun. Come and hang out, friends.
Oh,
You got the good applause drop earlier. You don't get another try.
Nah, they can't all be standing ovations.
I mean, I can stand up when I hit the drop. You don't know that I'm not.
That's a good point. You might have been standing this whole time.
It's true. My legs are tired.
And Steve, where can people find us on the internet?
They can find us at lipstickgeneration.com and wherever Lipstick Generation stuff is. Like, I don't know, Twitter, Facebook, I guess iTunes.
Just use a search engine and look us up, and you'll find it, because that's how the internet works.
You can sadly wander around Spotify wondering why we're not there.
Oh, we're not on Spotify right now?
Oh, I meant the podcast. The podcast,
Yeah, podcast isn't on Spotify, but our music is.
It's true, it is.
All right, well, that's our episode. Bye.
How did we talk for less time than that album takes to listen to? That's weird.
Oh, did we?
No, I'm being facetious. We talked for like 2 hours, which is slightly longer than the album itself.